What is up, Breaking Bad fans? Kino here, and we're back with another Breaking Bad log. Today we're looking at the 11th episode of Season 3, Abiquiu, which I think is the correct pronunciation, but I'm not 100% sure. The episode opens with a flashback of Jesse and Jane at the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum. They discuss going on this trip in 4 days out, and it turns out they actually went later on. Afterwards, they discuss her paintings, which Jesse was disappointed in. Jane says that the point of painting the door over and over again was to make the good feelings last, which is of course symbolic of their drug addiction and chasing good feelings. After kissing, Jane makes a joke about throwing up in her mouth, which is a dark foreshadowing to her death. We also see the cigarette with her lipstick on it from the previous episode. Back in the present, Jesse continues his plan to sell drugs to the recovering addicts in his support group. This is complicated by the fact that Walt is now weighing the drugs himself in order to prevent Jesse from stealing. However, it doesn't matter, as Badger and Skinny Pete don't feel comfortable ruining these people's lives. Jesse gets angry at their reluctance and decides to sell the drugs himself. Back at the hospital, Hank has started his physical therapy. The therapy is extremely painful for him, and he's struggling to do it. When Marie later says he's going to be released and continue therapy from home, Hank gets very angry. He says that he's not leaving the hospital until he can walk, and we can see that he's not yet ready to face life in his crippled state. Meanwhile, Marie gives Skyler their first bill from the hospital. Skyler has Walt over for dinner, and they discuss how they're going to pay for Hank's treatment. Skyler questions Walt's guy, and despite his assurances, insists on meeting him. Walt then takes her to meet with Saul, whose jokes don't seem to amuse her. Saul tells her that the plan is to launder the money through a laser tag business that he knows. However, Skyler thinks it's a ridiculous story, much to Saul's annoyance. Meanwhile, Jesse starts going out with Andrea, a new girl from his group. He plans to get her back onto drugs, but his plan is interrupted by the arrival of her 5-year-old son, Brock. Despite the shock, Jesse continues his relationship with Andrea and starts to bond with Brock. We of course know that Jesse's great with kids and considers himself something of a protector of them. This causes him to halt his plans on selling drugs. Later, when Andrea asks him for some of the blue meth that he mentioned, he gets angry at her for getting high while having a kid. This is a callback to his experience with the drug addict parents in Peekaboo. However, Andrea defends herself, saying that she takes care of her son. She also says she won't let what happened to her brother happen to her son. She then tells him the story that her kid brother was involved with drug dealers. Jesse then realizes that it was her brother that killed Combo back in Season 2. Meanwhile, Skyler criticizes the decision to buy the laser tag business. Instead, she suggests that he buy the car wash that Walt used to work at. This would be a much more believable story. However, Saul says that the plan won't work without someone inside the business to cook the books. They don't have anyone like that at the car wash. When Walt tells Skyler this, she suggests herself to run the car wash. Walt doesn't want her to be involved, but Skyler reveals that she never filed for divorce, meaning they're still technically married. This is another benefit, as they cannot be compelled to testify against each other. But as we learned from The Sopranos, that's not actually a rock-solid defense, and there are ways that they could still be made to testify against each other. Later, Walt is invited by Gus to have dinner at his home. Gus is cooking a Chilean fish stew that he says his children won't eat, and we see toys littered around the place. However, there's strong evidence that he doesn't actually have kids and is just manipulating Walt. But that's a topic for another video. Walt is suspicious of why Gus invited him over, but Gus says that he wants to help Walt learn how to be rich. He advises Walt never to make the same mistake twice, implying to him not to trust someone unreliable like Jesse, who Gus doesn't like at this point. In the final scene, Jesse goes to the corner where Combo is shot. He buys drugs from Andrea's brother Tomas, seeing their whole operation and the guys that he's with. He discovers that the meth is blue and realizes that these guys work for Gus. Angry that he is now working for the man who killed his friend, he walks off. Originally, I thought the title was just a phonetic spelling of ABQ, meaning Albuquerque. However, it turns out it's actually the name of a real town in New Mexico where Georgia O'Keeffe lived, which is of course a reference to the museum that they go to at the beginning of the episode. The final detail I have here is that the outfit that Gus wears to dinner is the same one that Elliot wore in Grey Matter. I believe this is a subtle foreshadowing to how Walt will come to view Gus in the same way he views Elliot, a rival that he wants to surpass on his way to the top. He won't be satisfied being an employee of Gus's any more than he would have been back when Elliot was offering him the same thing. And that's pretty much everything I have to say about the episode. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next one, coming soon. My taste in patrons is the same as my taste in lawyers. Scumbags. Russell, Sean, Heart of Markness, Logan, Clean, John Reyna, Jesse Sterling, Andrew Stewart, Ops Racing Media, Daz J. Kit, Conan Higgins, Sam Cedarland, Don Lucania, Celery Man, Jenna Marie Johnson, and Brad Smith Studios.